All right, so wait a minute. I don't know if you guys can really hear me because usually I've been doing this with my mic. Hold on. So I started this channel because I wanted to really get to know. I wanted to get to know more and learn more and put out more information about um the so-called Black Americans. And I say so-called because I'll say probably like every 20 years, the identity or the ethnicity for Black Americans has not always been Black Americans. We have been known to be called African American. We have been known to be called cop, colored, and then Negro, and then sometimes you'll hear Afro American, um, which is really the same thing as an African American, but we were the only ones who were saying the word Afro, around the late 50s, early 60s, 70s. And um, I know that a lot of older people, 60, 70 years old, didn't like to be called African American. And from what I was told, that term was being used by or started by certain political people or civil rights activists or whatever. There were people who were trying to reclassify us, and I shouldn't say trying because they did, but it the word doesn't bother me anymore. It used to bother me a lot because no one in my family ever said that we came from Africa, whether it was on my mom's side, my dad's side, my mom's dad's side, my my dad's mom's, like no one ever said that. So I'll say maybe like within the last 5 to 6 years, I've been very engaged in the genealogy of my family. And within every 20 years, your last name changes if you're married, right? And you have kids, and those kids get married, and those kids get married. Your great, 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 greats. Every time someone gets married, the last name changes. So I haven't always been a Thomas. I haven't always been a Green. I've had so many last names go down my tree, and it lets me know more about my people. So, you know, I created this channel because I wanted to interview, and I'm still going to do that, interview people who are older than me, even my age, that knows about our family or their family. And mainly so far, I've only interviewed two people, my mother and my mother-in-law. Um, Growing up, my mom would tell me two things about my bloodline. One was that we're Cherokee Indian and that we're Bayesian. Now, I've done the research. I am still doing the research that the Cherokees are known to have been down south. Point blank, period. That's just what I know. Um, my family from Barbados, there's historical connections with New England here in Massachusetts, Virginia, Connecticut, Rhode Island that is connected to Barbados. I don't know where I left off at, but anyways, so um okay, so yeah, so there's a connection between Barbados and New England. And the connection is that there were a lot of Black Americans being sent to Barbados around mid 1600s, a little after the Europeans came over here. A lot of them came over here around 1620, 1630. I live in Massachusetts, and most of the historical um, dates usually are like on the highway signs, like "Welcome to Boston," "Welcome to um, Mattapan," "Welcome to whatever city here in Massachusetts." So a lot of the city signs will tell you when it became a city, which is kind of letting you know when people kind of came over to New England. So there were Indians right now who would be called colored or Negro or African American who were sent to Barbados. And my family doesn't know that. So when I do the research about my genealogy, I also look up to see what was going on at that time, whatever was going on of a great 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 of mine, whether it was 1800 or 1820. I see what was going on. Google will only give you so much. You got to go to the library, and I've been doing that. There's a lot of books about uh my people here, my people in Barbados, and then there's a lot of books about the so-called black people um in New England, around the late 1600s, 17. People wrote about black people. We had different names. They would call us red. They would call us swarthy. They would call us tawny. They would call us um, black. You know, and I just think that for Black Americans, specifically Black Americans, to feel like there's a lot of us that just feel like we don't know who we are. We just go off of whatever the school system was telling us, or whatever colleges or universities or even churches would tell us who we are. But a lot of people don't know who we are because a lot of people never really did research on their genealogy. You can't tell me who I am without pulling up my family tree. So, in a nutshell, I created this YouTube channel to get to know more about myself so that my kids, when they get older, they can come back to this channel. Their kids can come back to this channel. When I have grandkids, they can come back to this channel and learn more about who we are. So you'll see some stuff about me, just learning more about who I am as a person, as a woman. But I'll also be putting things on my channel about West Indian culture, because I'm not just from Barbados. Hold on. I'm not just from Barbados. I'm also from my lineage also comes from St. Vincent and the United States. So I'll be doing like a lot. I've always liked history, but I only liked it when I wanted to do it. I didn't like school. I didn't like the history projects or the history classwork or the history homework that the school system would give me. Um, I am not very well uh, knowledgeable in everything here in the United States or everything in the Caribbean islands or everything in South America or Canada. I'm still learning. And most of the stuff that I'm still learning comes from other YouTubers who have done extensive um, documentaries on the Americas. Um, and also giving information about who Black Americans really are, and whether you want to be called Black American or whether you want to be called a West Indian. There's so much information about who my people are, who my what my lineage, what my roots come from, who what they were doing back then, 100 years ago, 200, 300, 400 plus years ago. A lot of our history really, we just know a lot from within the last 400 years just because people were writing it down and leaving books and making books about it. Um, so that's pretty much what my channel is about. I'll I try to put other things on here like learning how to cook and um, getting involved in the safety of my family, like learning how to shoot guns, making sure I'm learning how to protect my family, so I don't just be willy nilly just walking up and down the street with a gun. I want to make sure I know how to use it. So you'll see stuff like that on this page, um, incorporating the foods from my roots, as far as like from the South or from the islands, um, which is all part of the Americas. And that's the thing that people don't seem to understand, that when I say I'm from America, I'm from America. You can say the United States, but I'm also including the Caribbean islands. And there's also connections with the Caribbean island to South America as well. There was a lot of slave trading that was happening from like New England down to Virginia, down to Florida, down to the islands, and then back and forth, and then back and forth. The Salem witch trial talks about that. Um, the Wampanoags, the Pequots, the Powhatans, the Nipmunks. A lot of them were sent to the islands, the Caribbean islands of America. So yeah, I, I'm gonna do my best to try to upload a lot of information. I have a lot of new followers on this channel. I don't know, and I appreciate it. I'm still getting used to YouTube. I used to do a lot of stuff on Instagram and TikTok, but TikTok is very addictive, so I had to get off of it. I'm homeschooling my children too. I'm working Monday through Friday, so it's hard for me to put stuff on YouTube because you want to make it look decent. Whereas TikTok, I could just be scrolling, and I put stuff on there too, but I don't really never really care about how it looked. Um, but a lot of the stuff that if you ever look me up, you'll probably see some stuff about me pushing or talking about being a Republican. I don't consider myself a Republican. I voted Republican since I was 18. And that's also been a misconception too about being a so-called Black American, because for years, I'll say over 60 plus years, maybe a little bit more, our families have been told to vote Democrat. But if you go back in time, I'll say up until the early 50s, a lot of melanated, copper colored people were voting for Republicans. And a lot of them were Republicans themselves, like in political seats. So, and if you notice, it's kind of still like that down south, but this probably way more now. Melanated people, copper colored people voting Democrat down south too. But states like Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Florida, um, they have always been uh, a Republican or a red state, but they had Democratic cities, meaning Democratic mayors, Democratic city councilors. So it really just depends on who you vote for, what you think they're gonna do for you. I'm just now finding out they ain't gonna do nothing. So voting for me, I'll say probably stopped within the last 2 years. Yeah, I voted for Trump. I voted for Trump. I'm not scared to admit it. I'm not scared to talk about it. Matter of fact, a lot of my friends know I voted for Trump. Like, there's no reason for me to hide that. It's the same thing someone saying, yeah, I voted for Biden or I voted for Clinton. At one point, we just think that this person cares about us because whatever. I was told if you're a black and you voting, stick with the Democrats because the Democrats are for poor black people. Republicans are for rich white people. And I know of rich melanated copper colored people, and I know poor so-called white, because y'all are not white people. So yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of stuff on my channel. I don't mind talking about. I can get on here and talk all day about politics and realize that it ain't gonna do anything for us. But we should know what's going on in our country because this is our home. This has been our home for over 400 plus years. For me, I come from two different sides, so I could talk about both the islands and the United States. But that's pretty much what my channel will be about. So yeah, so it's this channel is just geared to me speaking my mind, letting people know about more of the Black American culture, also known as copper colored, also known as African American, Negro. And even I want to touch on that because we all went to school, we all know Black in Spanish is Negro. Well, that's how we've been saying it, but Negro. And, you know, I'm not too sure of the exact date of when they were calling us Negro. I know that they were calling us Negro in the 60s, which is weird because the majority of people who were calling us Negro with that accent were white Europeans or Europeans, Irish, Italians, Polish, they were calling us Negro, but that's Spanish for black. So where did that come from? I don't know. I can stay on these topics all day when it comes down to the history of my people. But I also want to interview Irish people, Italian people. I want to get to know their story of them coming here, what made them come here. I was already told that a lot of them were told that the United States or the America uh, is a great place to live and make money. And unfortunately, a lot of them got stuck here, and none of them are not as rich as we think that they are, but they're not. So, um, but that's my goal, to interview all all different types of people from different walks of life, their take on the whole civil rights movement. Don't not worrying about me, because I wasn't here in 1960s. I would like to know other people's thoughts of what was going on at that time. So yeah, there's some things that I have a lot of questions on. I do have a lot of questions about the civil rights movement and how did it help our people out. But stay tuned. That's all I want to put on here, and hopefully I'll be able to put more and blow up. But we'll see. But that was it. Bye.